Joining us live from Vancouver is Jason Zandberg, Special Situations Analyst at PI Financial Corp. How are you doing today, my good man?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And, myself and Ed have been talking about what's been happening in the market all throughout today, and especially in the cannabis space. But this is somewhere where you specialize in. What have you seen in the last little while, and where are your thoughts right now on the situation of the cannabis space?
Yeah, there's definitely been a huge number of companies that have gone public in the last year. And quite honestly, it's you definitely have to look at the quality of these companies, because there are a lot of either Me Too companies or companies that really don't have a lot behind them. So due diligence is extra important right now.
Absolutely. You actually cannot emphasize that even more. One of the topics we've been talking about all afternoon is that a lot of these companies, even with good intentions, I think a lot of them, when you're going to start seeing it the latter parts of this year, especially next year, are unfortunately not going to meet their milestones. They're not going to keep going, and you will start seeing some delinquencies and some people falling off. So it really, really is important to pick the right ones. On that exact note, are there a few LPs that currently stand out to you as those companies that you do think will pass the test of time?
Yeah, well, I've been looking at some of the names that have been outperforming in the rec market. When I say outperforming, I mean, we've got a fairly good track record of those that have been selling medicinal cannabis for a few years. And the names that really stand out when after the rec launch for me is Organigram and Supreme Cannabis. So two that are not in the top tier at this point, but getting great reviews, being able to execute and get products to market, and I think there'll be some nice surprises here coming up in earnings.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Supreme, the cannabis company. OGI, I'm liking to see that they've made a lot of progress since the 2017 or maybe even 16 now. Time flies by. But with Fire, they've, even on a charting perspective, they've really been crawling back, because they were in the low or high ones, mid ones for a while there. I think at last check they had just breached $2 and by a little bit. That'll be an interesting one. You're thinking that the rec market's going to have a big reflection on their next quarter?
Yeah, no, absolutely. They've been getting great reviews on their Zhangyi and Wapa strains, and just being able to, they have actually outperformed at the later stage of the medical market. They don't get enough credit for that, and we expect that the numbers to climb. We're looking at about $9 million in sales now. That's a pretty high bar for them to reach, but we think they can do it. And they'll release their earnings next week.
Well, looking forward to seeing that, see if they are able to meet that number there. When it comes to the United States, obviously a lot of heads have turned their focus over there. Are there certain things for yourself that really stand out to you? Are there certain companies that you think maybe a diamond in the rough, or just in general, not enough people are looking at them?
Yeah. No, the U.S. is a very interesting market in that it's every state has got its own licensing rules and product, what products can be sold or can't be sold. So, it takes a lot of, again, due diligence to try to identify what are some of the great states to be invested in. Right now, we're very fond of the Florida market, not only just the sheer size of its population, but the fact that recently they have overturned the smoking ban on cannabis. So initially they had said that it would only be concentrates and and oils that would be sold, and essentially banned any smokable cannabis. Most states are about 50% of the product. If they provide both category types, about half of it's smokable cannabis. So we think that this is actually going to be a nice boost for Florida. Furthermore, in Florida, I really believe that we can see that medical market go to a rec market, possibly in 2020, but more likely in 2022. But that's a pretty turn from going from medical to rec, and we just think that the upside is huge for that state. So some of the names that we like in Florida, Trulieve is the leader in terms of sales. They've got 24 locations here open right now. And we also like Ianthus, which are just starting to open up their dispensaries right now.
Yeah, and with Trulieve, that's actually one that caught myself off guard personally, because they came onto the scene and they had some really, really great revenues, and like you said, specifically in the medical side of cannabis. Was it not recently? It could have been even this week or last week that they won. They overturned something because there was a limit for how many dispensaries you can have, and I believe they won that, and they're allowed opening more. Do you know more about that?
Yeah. So Florida, when they initially launched their medical program, they didn't have a limit to how many locations you could open. They essentially assigned licenses to regions. So Trulieve had opened up 14 locations, and then after that, at that point, they set a cap to, at the time it was 25 locations, and then they increased it to 30 once the patient count increased. So Trulieve felt this was unfair. The fact that they had an early lead actually hampered them, because if they would have known right off the start that they could only have 25 locations, they would have picked more high volume locations. But as you mentioned, a judge did rule in their favor this week, and essentially said that they should be able to do 14 plus the 30. So 14 that they had originally opened, and then 30 after the regulations changed. So there still has to be legislation to push that forward, but we're optimistic, and we believe that Trulieve will be able to open up more locations. And regardless, I believe that the repeal on the smoking ban will actually increase the patient count, which in turn will increase the number of available licenses per license holder, or number of locations per license holder.
Yeah, and that's something a lot of people turn to various ways of consuming cannabis, and I was always surprised. Somewhere out in I think it's the UK as well, had come on, and they are stating pretty much the same thing that Florida was just before that, that you're not allowed smoking, you had to take it in other means, but certain cannabinoids are only activated when you do heat it past that time, and you are actually smoking it. So it's a sticky situation there, but no pun intended. But in I didn't mean for that one there. But it's really nice to hear certain players really making a push, because in the States, again, a lot of people are really not paying attention to these MSOs, and they're really, really not understanding that, yes, you can't export, but you certainly can go in some of the largest states and the largest economy in the world. Are there any other players throughout the United States that you think are either a diamond in the rough, or ones that you're watching for certain milestones to happen with?
Yeah, no, we like the MSO model in the U.S. and a lot of these names, like the Curaleaf and the Harvest and GTIs have all got acreage of, all got $2 to $5 billion market caps. We're looking at a few that are under that limit that we believe will have some good momentum moving forward. Ianthus, which we talked about, is one of our favorite names. Now that they've merged with MPX, they've got a great footprint across the U.S., both the eastern seaboard as well as out west with MPX assets, and that's trading at about 1.5 billion market cap. So we do believe that it should become one of those top tier MSOs. Another name that we like, which is very much on much smaller side, is MRDean. They really had their start in Colorado. I know the market doesn't like Colorado place, given that you have to set up these odd structures to essentially absorb all the profits. But we do expect that to change at some point, and we believe that they've got a great management team and are really. They're not getting into bidding wars for dispensaries. They're really thinking logically about, where they want to place pins on the map and not overpaying. So we like that discipline.
Yeah, it's an important one.
Jason, Ed Molesky here. Care to comment on any comments on the Namaste legal battles that sort of came to light this week?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've never, I haven't covered Namaste, so,
okay.
I've read the headlines and read some of the stories, but not really close to the situation, so it'd be unfair for me to make a comment.
Okay.
No problem. Going back on that original point, though, it is important to start looking for companies that aren't overpaying for things, because there's some companies that are coming out with some great deals for a fraction of the price.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if you look at the difference between buying a license and actually applying and earning a license, I mean, there's a huge difference. And we prefer those obviously that can earn their licenses, but if they can't, try not to overpay, because some of the valuations on licenses have been extremely high, which we really don't think that there'll be it'll be difficult to get a strong ROI on some of those investments.
All right.
Well, I appreciate very much for your time, taking the time to come on and speak about these, because it's, again, as a lot of these stocks are starting to cool off from those January, some great runs in January.
Yeah.
Now's the time to start really looking into who are going to be the players, who are the people who are going to really push forward. So I appreciate very much for you coming on the show and giving us your time to talk about a few that you believe in.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
Thank you.